everybody. For those of you guys who don't know me, I'm Jelly Bean. And today I want to talk to you about planning your thru hike. So for those of you who don't know me, I hiked the Pacific Crest Trail in 2020. Then I just kept going. I thought it was going to be a once in a lifetime thing for me. I just kept going. I took some time, helped some people out, hiked around, made my way to the Appalachian Trail in 2021, and hiked the miles that I hadn't done on the Appalachian Trail, and then went to towards the CDT and did some hikes around there, around Yellowstone, Glacier, up in Montana, Wyoming, and so that's a little bit about me. But today I would like to talk to you guys about planning your thru hike. A lot of you guys are interested in hiking and really want to get out and do a long trail. So, planning a thru hike. First off, don't plan it. I know that sounds kind of funny. For the year before I hiked the Pacific Crest Trail, I spent every day researching gear, buying gear, setting it back, buying new gear. I had books, just all kinds of notes, and I'm going to send all this stuff here and there, and I'm going to have everything planned out to the T. And I decided that's crazy, because you can't plan something like this, okay? So my videos show basically what it is like to hike every day, no frills, no crazy stuff. It's just me hiking. I show what I'm doing, the people I'm around, and everything else is going on. I will say my Appalachian Trail videos are not the best, but again, is what it is. So I'm gonna have a sip so my throat clears up a little bit and talk to you why when you're planning a thru hike, don't get so vested with everything being written down, okay? So from day one, once you get to the trail, everything's going to change. It's going to be nothing like you expected it. It's going to be a lot more and a lot more enjoyable. Okay? With that said, if you want to go and look at my videos, I'd appreciate it, love it. I don't think my videos on the Appalachian Trail are very good. But I think my Pacific Crest Trail videos are much better. So whatever trail you're thinking about hiking, the things you do need to plan are your gear. So the first thing I would recommend doing, and now I am not an expert by any means, research the gear. Get the gear you think is going to be most useful for you. Don't listen to all the people on YouTube, because we're all a bunch of idiots. And you got the people out there that say, hey, this is the best blanket. You got to carry this on the Appalachian Trail, Pacific Crest Trail, Continental Divide Trail. 3 weeks later, they'll tell you, don't buy this blanket. A lot of them, they get money from people, they get gear sent for them for free if they throw a little thing out about it. Okay? So first off, don't listen to anybody else. What you have to do is buy gear that you think you are going to need, test it out, see how it works for you. That's the only thing that's going to work. If you listen to, I'm not going to give any names out there, but if you watch hiking videos, you know the big ones. And you'll know that some of them say, oh, I got an 8-pound base weight. I'll tell you right off, that's crazy. I have a very lightweight tent. I carry the Z-Pax Duplex. I love the tent. Great tent. Works wonderful for me. Non-freestanding tent may not work for you. It's also a single walled tent. So therefore, there's more condensation issues, especially if you're going to hike like the Appalachian Trail. The Pacific Crest Trail, not much of an issue until you get to the north. Up in Washington, it's going to be wet. Continental Divide, kind of same idea. California or Colorado, you're going to get the thunderstorms in the afternoon, but again, it's pretty dry again until you get up towards Glacier, Montana. So again, don't listen to when everybody tells you got to buy this gear. I rock a quilt. I think it's the most comfortable, most enjoyable sleeping experience on trail that you can have. A sleeping bag puts me like I'm in a hot dog wrapper. I've never been comfortable in that. And when I switched over to a quilt, I fell in love. But again, don't let my personal preferences get you to get gear that you don't want to get. All right. With that said, most post offices only hold a package that you can send for about 2 weeks. So if you're like me, I didn't have anybody to send them. So on the Pacific Crest Trail, I only sent packages a few places. Those are places that would hold it for the entire hiking season. I'll give a shout out to Yogi. She's got a great book for the Pacific Crest Trail, Yogi Hikes. Amazing book. Gives you all kinds of information for post offices, maps of town, easy ways to get in. I would definitely recommend her books on any trail. They will help you out. Continental Divide Trail is much harder. Towns are not as close. Harder to get in and out because the trail's more remote. The Appalachian Trail, you're almost in town every other day. You almost don't even have to carry food. It's crazy. So, with that said, again, research a trail you're thinking about hiking. Think about, how many miles you want to start to do. When I started on the Pacific Crest Trail, my plan was to do basically 10 miles a day. Get used to the environment, my gear, and then step it up. And that's what I did. And I had an amazing, amazing experience. One of the best 6 months of my life. So with that being said, again, the Pacific Crest Trail, Continental Divide Trail, and the Appalachian Trail, those are the big three in the U.S., but there are a bumload more. So again, my suggestion when planning a hike, first pick the trail you want to do for whatever reason. Maybe you're used to being in the desert and you want to go to the Appalachian Trail to see a whole different idea. Vice versa, if you're used to the East Coast, you've never been in the desert. Try the Pacific Crest Trail out. Now, the Pacific Crest Trail, you have to get in the permit. And that's done normally like November and January, the permit windows. You have to research that. I can maybe talk about that later. The Appalachian Trail does not require a permit. They would like you to register so they can kind of see how many people are going. Continental Divide is not as heavily trafficked, and it's also not completely finished. That's why on the Continental Divide Trail, you may have to take road walks to find another piece of trail. Lots of different issues. All right, so now you've picked your trail. You want to do the PCT, whichever one it is. If you want to do the PCT, you got your permit, and your start date is April 1st. All right. So with an April 1st start date, this is another thing you have to look at for each trail. What's the weather going to be like from the start and where you're going to get to? On the PCT, if you start too early, say March 1st, you're going to get rain in the south. Not as much like in the Appalachian, but you're going to get some rain. You're going to get to San Jacinto. You're leaving awful early. You're going to have a lot of snow on San Jacinto. You're also going to get to the Sierras much earlier. So depending on the snow year, there's going to be more snow. So these are the things you have to plan. You have to look at the trail you've decided to take and then look at how far you plan to get as you start and increase your legs and see what the weather's going to be like. So, again, with that being said, you've picked your trail. Now, on the Appalachian Trail, in the south, especially if you start early, I started February 28th, you're going to get into the Smokies. It's going to be cold. There's going to be snow. If you start late on the Appalachian Trail, are you going to get to Maine in time before the weather changes? And that's with all three of the big trails. Too early, you got weather early. Too late, you're going to have a lot of weather in the end. So again, these are the things you really need to plan. It's more of when you start, what gear you need, and how far you are along trail at these certain spots. Like the Pacific Crest Trail, the Sierras are basically I just forgot the number. 600 and X amount. All of a sudden I've got a brain fart. I don't know why, but for some reason I can't remember that number. But you can look it up. You got Google. So I took 2 months to get to the Sierra. Went in the Sierra, I had ice axe, crampons, a little extra weather gear, warm weather stuff, or cold weather stuff, I'm sorry. And basically, I didn't use a lot of it. The only time I really used my ice axe was climbing Mount Whitney, and then one other time going through the chute on Forester Pass. But prior years were a lot heavier snow. They were more necessary. So again, whatever trail you're going to hike and what you're planning for, you need to get out and do the research. So like on the Pacific Crest Trail, there's a PCT water report. Great thing to look at. There's a gentleman around San Jacinto that climbs San Jacinto like once a week, goes up there, gives you a trail report. On the PCT, or the AT, excuse me, you got Remdino. He's always giving you updates all along the trail. Continental Divide, not so much information. One good thing to look at is if you're thinking about going to hike next year, join the groups for the PCT, the AT, the CDT, whichever trail you're interested in. Follow the folks along, see what they're getting into. Again, it's going to be different for you, but at least it'll give you a better idea. I said for myself, the videos I put out there on trail, I try to do just a no frills approach. I don't just show unicorns all day, because it's not. The trail sucks, it's hot, it's cold, it's wet, it's not all butterflies and unicorns. And that is what's going to end your hike. If you can't embrace the suck, you're not going to enjoy it. So first off, plan to embrace the suck. All right. So that's just kind of an overview of the trails and a basic idea of planning. You can have a notebook where, hey, I'm going to hike 15 miles every day. This is where I'm sleeping. This is what I'm going to eat. Let me tell you this. First off, it's not going to happen that way. You may run into weather. You may find a tramley that wants to do things different that you want to join. And let me ask you this. Do you know what you want to eat 3 weeks from Thursday? So if you make 75 boxes and mom or dad, a wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, they're going to send you a package every 5 days because that's when you're going to be there next time. You are going to be so sick of that food, you're going to hate it. You're going to see things that Jelly Bean did. It's like, man, that looks really good. Or that some other hiker does that gives you a better idea of things you want to do. Your palate's going to change. I'm not saying you can't send yourself a package like that, but if you spend so much time you're planning at home, I think it's going to take away from your hike. Again, don't listen just to me. All right, guys, I'm going to give you a break of me just speaking, and I'll show you a picture or two, and I'll be right back. All right, guys, I'm back, and hopefully I haven't bored the living fudge out of you, but probably I have. But if you're planning a thru hike, you are so excited about what's happening, you may still enjoy this video. All right, so where to go from there? So I've already told you, throw that damn book out. All those notes. Excuse me. Because all those notes are going to put you in a spot that's not going to let your hike happen. And when you're out on a thru hike, it's going to change you. I'm in a beautiful place, 6 miles off the Continental Divide Trail. I have a beautiful place to live, beautiful bed, and you know what I still do? I sleep on top of my covers in my quilt. I'm just more comfortable. The trail changed me. I would never talk about bathroom. That's somewhere ladies go to do their makeup and guys go to shave. That's the only thing that ever happens in there. If you were like me, you'll find when you get on trail, that's going to change. You're going to talk about things that you probably would have never been comfortable talking about. But it's part of the trail experience. It's part of you becoming you as a thru hiker. Embrace that. Enjoy that. So, back to planning. The biggest thing to do, don't listen to idiots like me. Listen to yourself. Watch the videos, see what people have to say, but then look at it for yourself, make your own decisions. I use a Sawyer Squeeze. To me, it's the best water filter. The micro and the mini seem to have too many issues. My personal experience, again, that's mine. I rock the Z-Pax Duplex single wall tent, non-freestanding. Works wonderfully for me, may not work for you. I rock a quilt. Some people like being curled up in that sleeping bag. I don't like it. Quilt for me is amazing. So that's something else you have to plan. What do you really want to carry? Do you want a sleeping bag, a quilt, freestanding tent, all these issues. Your cook system, your backpack. Do you want a hyperlight like I do? ULA makes great packs. Osprey makes great packs. Gregory. There's a bumload of manufacturers out there. Again, what works for you? My ULA that I wore started the PCT and carried it most of the way. I love the pack. It's comfortable. Unfortunately, water wicks through it. So through Northern Washington, I switched to a Hyperlight. The Hyperlight is just basically a bag. Has some stays in the back that you have to adjust to fit your back a little better. Same with the ULA. I met a lot of people on the PCT that didn't realize they had to adjust the stays to their back for their ULA. They thought that pack was very uncomfortable. Once I helped them adjust the stays, they thought it was the most comfortable pack they ever wore. When I switched to the Hyperlight pack, right at first, I wasn't sure about it. Again, had to adjust it a little bit. Then I fell in love with it. So your Hyperlight pack is a very basic bag. It's basically just a big bag. That's all it is. If you want more compartments, you're going to want to look at like an Osprey or something like that. The Osprey also has a great deal. It has a little mesh on the back, keeps it away from your back. So if you have issues when you sweat, because you're going to sweat, you're going to be nasty, trust me. So if you have issues with rash or anything like that, maybe a Hyperlight doesn't work for you. Maybe the Osprey's better. Again, a myriad of packs out there. So these are all things you have to plan. You don't need to plan where you're going to be on day 4. Day 3, you only did 10 miles, but your notebook said you're going to do 25 a day. What happened? You didn't know what was going to happen, and that's the issue. So try not to get that worrisome about your planning. Let the hike happen. If you plan to do 7 miles, 10 miles, 15 miles a day, expect you're going to do a little less, especially right off the bat. You haven't got your legs underneath you yet. Even if you've been training, a good friend of mine lives in Indiana. He's on the CDT this year. He hiked the Appalachian Trail last year. He lives in Indiana. If he's training in Indiana, it's not going to be the same as hiking the CDT or the PCT or even the Appalachian Trail. So get what exercise you can, try to be fit, but that's going to come. So again, don't stress so much about that. But as I was saying, if you plan to do, say, 10 miles a day, just expect to do a few miles shorter. That way, you'll carry enough food to your first stopping point. And everybody thinks, oh, you got to be ultra light, and there's these people that put these videos out there, my base weight's 6 pounds. First off, I think that's crazy. I carry 3 pairs of hiking socks, 3 pairs of liners, a pair of sleeping socks, set of sleep clothes. I like to be comfortable. I like to put dry socks on every day. With that, I don't get blisters. I've had hiking the Pacific Crest Trail, I had 1 blister, and it was because I had a pair of socks that were too long. I had never worn them, but I took them because I thought I needed them. So on day 2, I wore them, it was a little too much fabric. It curled over my toe. In the first mile and a half, I got a blister. By the time I found a spot I could take it off, the blister already popped. I took those socks off, never wore them again. And that was the only blister I had in the PCT. And I hadn't had a blister since then. So another issue when planning. What shoes are you going to wear? You got to get out and try them for yourself. I love Obos. They're my favorite hiking shoe. Great for the PCT. Appalachian Trail, I decided I was going to go to the Ultras. Zero drop, I'm older, killed my tendons, hit mountain crossings, gave them away, went right back to my Obos. Since then, I've really tried to go to Ultras to get used to them, because if I do get to do the CDT, I want a shoe that's going to dry much better. Obos, I love them, but once they get wet, they basically never dry. So again, plan your footwear, your tent, your sleeping bag, all of that to the trail you're going to hike. Don't just throw something on and think, hey, everybody else is using it. Ultras are going to work for me. They may not. So, plan your shoes, your cook system, your tent, your sleep system, your pack. Those are things you really want to plan. Get out there, try them out, and definitely plan for the weather you're going to be in. So, with that said, I think you know where I'm going with this. Throw them books out the window, but look at the weather you're going to be in. So if you're hiking the Pacific Crest Trail, coming out of Campo, I carried my crampon, micro spikes and ice axe, because I didn't have anybody to send them to me for San Jacinto. I didn't need them. Until San Jacinto, didn't really use them, but I was happy to have them because it was very snowy on San Jacinto. So if you have somebody that can send you things, maybe you put ice axe crampons in a box, your mail advisor is going to send them to you when needed. Again, make sure you plan ahead to see that post office is only going to hold them X amount of days. So you can't send them in April if you expect to get there in the middle of May. So that's things you have to plan. Again, PCT, you get the Sierras. You're going to need to carry the ice axe, the micro spikes. You may not need them, you may. Again, depends when you get there, depends on the snow year. Top of that, Cascades. Same idea. Appalachian Trail, starting earlier. I don't think you need an ice axe. You may want to carry micro spikes, because if you're leaving really early, snow, freezing rain, you're still on mountains, you don't want to slide off. Don't know if you need an ice axe? Again, I didn't need one, you may. Those are the things you have to plan. Look at the weather variations. You want to have the gear in case you need it. At the same time, you don't want to carry it for long periods of time that you don't need it. So that is what I really think you should plan. All right. So, I'm going to leave you at that point today. And maybe I'll do a second part, or maybe we'll do a gear related video to a planning. But hopefully I didn't drive y'all too nuts and bored. But I just want to put that out there for you guys thinking about next year's thru hike. I know I wish I was out there. I'm watching the YouTube videos of everybody out there hiking right now, seeing all my friends' posts. I wish I was out there. So, all right, guys, that's my initial base on planning your thru hike. Let the hike happen. Plan the gear you need. Don't plan daily. It's going to change. So, all right, guys. If any of you guys know me, you always know I say, hey, have a good evening, afternoon, morning, wherever you are. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe. I'm going to try to get out myself and do a lot more hiking. I've just been really busy with my new job, and hopefully I'll take you guys out there with me. So, all right, guys. Hey, thanks for watching. Please subscribe, and hey, enjoy hiking.